Welcome back. As you know, I am Eli the Computer Guy here for the Daily Blog, where I shake my brain nipples every day in order to get some of that dirty YouTube money so I can afford to provide you folks in-person hands-on technology classes in Durham, North Carolina. I'm actually doing a class tonight, driving 3.5 hours to teach a class on OpenAI's API. Basically with these classes, you RSVP, you show up, you learn, and then you go the hell away. You do with it as you will. Do remember, free to the user isn't actually free. That's why I do these YouTube videos, and there's a donor box link down below. So if you want to throw a couple of dollars in, that would be ever so lovely. So was it Taylor Swift? Was it Taylor Swift who said, play stupid games and win stupid prizes? Yeah, apparently that is what we are doing in the globalized world that we have. So I've been talking about this whole idiocy, this whole anti-China policy that we've had in the United States, and to be clear, we've had it for a long time. Under Democrats, under Republicans, started with Obama. Obama, Nobel Peace Prize winning president, won the Nobel Peace Prize for showing the fuck up to work. Talk about low goddamn expectations there. Anyways, he, our first black president, did something called the Pacific Pivot. He pivoted our entire military establishment to point at China because he, as a Nobel Peace Prize winning president, knew that we were going to have World War III with China. Anyways, since then, well, even before then, but since then, it's just been just idiocy, right? One thing and another, and I am told every day by my superiors, right? In a democratic society, I am told by my superiors that I need to hate Chinaman for providing me low-cost products. Look at what that fucking Chinaman did. Look at all these things you can now afford to buy because of Chinaman. Hate that motherfucker. Anyways, there's been this whole thing on the Biden administration with the AI diffusion rules, and then we've had Trump try to get them from getting AI. Then we've had the tariffs, and we've had just one thing after another, after another, after another. So what's going on in Europe right now is kind of interesting. What's going on in Netherlands? There's this company called Nexperia. It was bought by a Chinese company, I think, called WingTech, back in like 2018, 2019, and they produce low-power chips for cars, for vehicles, right? So a lot of times when we think about processors, when we talk about silicon, right, there's this 2 nanometer, 3 nanometer, and all that kind of horse crap, right? Well, the reality is a lot of devices, a lot of things nowadays require CPUs, require processors, but you know they can be like 50 nanometer for anybody cares, right? They can just be big and bulky because they're going to get shoved into a car as long as they're reliable and cheap. And so Nexperia, what they do is they focus on that reliable and quote-unquote cheap processors to put into things like vehicles, especially into car vehicles. And so I don't know. So the United States put the CEO of WingTech under like a ban for some reason. We don't like him for some reason. He did not slobber over Trump's ring or God knows fucking what. Look, I'm saying this as American. I don't know why the fuck we hate this guy. Anyways, and because of that, we started putting pressure on the government of Netherlands to deal with Nexperia, right? So WingTech's CEO, they own Nexperia. So because we dislike WingTech's CEO, Netherlands needed to do something about Nexperia, right? So basically, Netherlands, last week, a couple weeks ago, they basically come in, it was the end of September, and so they nationalize, right? They confiscate Nexperia, the headquarters for Nexperia, basically from a national security standpoint. We can't trust Chinaman, right? Chinaman might do us harm. This is considered a product that's what they produce is a product that is valuable for national security. Ergo, we are going to nationalize it. We are going to confiscate this entire company. We are going to seize Chinese assets in order for security. The problem is this is a globalized world, and so basically they seized the headquarters. They seized the headquarters. A lot of the production capacity for Nexperia is actually in China. So basically Europe got all the lawyers and executives and HR people, and China got all the factories. And so now China is no longer shipping these parts to Europe. And literally, I just did a video talking about how the Chinese branch basically said to stop listening to the Netherlands headquarters, right? Stop listening to headquarters. As far as the manufacturing is concerned, Again, I'm not a manufacturing expert. I know it's basically shut down the flow of the finished chips. Apparently, the idea, and this is kind of curious again with the globalized world, and what is actual resilience in a modern world. One of the things that's come up is that actually Europe still produces like the chips, but they then get packaged in China. So again, one of the questions, so TSMC and NVIDIA just talked about they created the first production grade wafer out of an Arizona fab, and everybody's clapping because that means we no longer have to rely on Taiwan to produce our chips. But the thing is, that's one stage. That's one stage. In a globalized world, you have products get shipped all around the world in order to be finalized, packaged into a component. And so one of the things here is they're also saying that Europe may actually have a lot of the ability to produce the chip, like the silicon, the wafers and things, but it gets packaged in China. And so however this falls out, the important thing to understand here is that China is the actual fucking linchpin for getting the finished good. Like even if they have Nexperia has the lawyers, and even they have the HR people, and even they have the fucking wafers, if they can't turn that into a finished good, who the hell cares? But anyways, right, the Netherlands, right, confiscated this company, right? They seized it because they cared about national security, because China at any point in time could crash the entire automotive sector in Europe if they did not provide the chips. Christ. So, you know what would push China over the edge to not want to provide you folks chips anymore? If you seized one of their companies. I'm just saying, as I've said many times, don't be racist. But if you're gonna be racist, at least be effective with the racism. And so yeah, now China is no longer sending the chips to Europe. And because they're no longer sending the chips to Europe, it does look like the European auto manufacturing industry might completely and utterly fucking collapse. So literally, Europe was so smart in trying to protect their security, they may have in fact destroyed their security, and it looks like there will be follow-on effects for the United States. And this is my frustration with a lot of this. Look, folks. Here's the thing. Again, when I do Silicon Dojo classes, when I do videos and things, I produce this for everybody, right? I have had Africans come to me. I've had Pakistanis come to me. I've had Indians come to me. I have people from all over the world come to me and thank me for my education, what I do for the world, right? That's the thing. That is the world I want. That is the cooperative world that I want. Here's the deal. I'm a Buddhist. I get sometimes you don't get what you want. You don't get what you want. So, second and third options are some of the things that are on the table. And here's the thing. If we're not going to work together, if we're not going to be one big part of a global community and try to empower everybody, we are going to go down the racist route. All I'm saying is, can we get some of those old school racists in? Can we reanimate Henry Ford's body? That fucker was a racist piece of shit. He was also Henry fucking Ford. And all I'm gonna put on the table is if we are gonna be racist motherfuckers, can we get a few more fucking Henry Fords into the leadership positions? So they might be fucking bastards, but they're bastards that get shit done. Because the problem that we have right now is we have some racist, supremacist motherfuckers out there that apparently don't understand how supply chains work. And as they say, fuck around, and the entire world is going to find out. So Europe's auto industry braces for chip interference soon. U.S. automakers also likely to be exposed through smaller parts and electronics makers that rely on Nexperia chips. And do remember, with the whole supply chain, everybody's building on everything, right? And we've built up the supply chain over 3 decades. We built up the supply chain. If we want to do isolationism, if we want to back off of this kind of stuff, if we want to disengage from China, I don't agree with it, but I understand the concept. I can understand that fucking argument. But you cannot roll back what has been created over 3 decades in 3 fucking months. It doesn't work, right? Like with Trump, right? There's this whole thing with the rare earths with China. Anyways, we created an $8.5 billion agreement with Australia in order to get access to their rare earths. And Trump literally said, by next year, we're going to be swimming in rare earths. You're like, what? No. Again, if you want to create an agreement with Australia for rare earths, you want to break our reliance on China for rare earths, and you want to build up our capacity and all that kind of stuff, that is great. Again, I completely and 100% support. It doesn't fucking happen in 1 year, dipshits. As I talk about, have you ever actually had to install a new bathroom in your house? Right? Getting a new bathroom put into your house can take fucking months. And so if putting a bathroom in your house takes months, how long do you think it takes to find land for processing facilities, get the financing to build the processing facilities, build the processing facilities, get the employees, upskill the employees in order to be able to maintain the processing facilities and get all that shit? Do you think that might take a little bit longer than it takes somebody to put a bathroom into their house, right? I'm not playing fucking 5D chess, because 5D chess doesn't exist. I'm just looking at brass tacks. But anyways, right, there's this idea. We can just... So anyways, Europe's auto industry is preparing for production disruption because their little fucking puppy dog, lap dogs of the United States did some really stupid shit. The lap dogs of Trump pissed over all on, China's antique rugs, and China, man, just ain't so fucking pleased about it anymore. Anyways, Europe's auto industry is preparing for production disruption within days because of China's export restrictions on semiconductors made by Nexperia. Chip shortages are likely to hit key suppliers within a week, while the impact could spread across the entire sector within 10 to 20 days, according to people familiar with the matter who asked not to be identified. Quote, the situation could lead to significant production restrictions, possibly even production stoppages in the near future, Hildegard Müller, who heads Germany's VDA auto lobby, said in a statement. Beijing has blocked Nexperia, a Dutch chip maker owned by China's Wingtech technology company, from exporting products made at its Chinese plants. The move came after the Dutch government seized control of the company under emergency laws meant to safeguard strategic production. Wow, how's that fucking going? I keep being told, as an American, I keep being told how amazing the European education system is, right? You see a fucking European, a French person, a German person, a Dutch person, they will not stop shitting on Americans about our education system and how fucking stupid we are. So please, dear Dutch, explain to me again how amazing your education system is, where your government fucking seized a company under, national security concerns, and in their actions of seizing the company, they have now put them into a national security disaster. Wow me with your amazing fucking intelligence. Anyway. Car makers and their suppliers are holding crisis meetings with government officials to map out contingency plans, but have warned that sourcing and qualifying replacement components will take months, not days. And remember, with these parts going into cars, right? A part that goes into a television or whatever else, qualification level, who the hell knows? This stuff is going into cars. Cars may be in incredibly cold environments, they may be incredibly hot environments, right? Depending on what the little processor does, right? That might be, the ignition or the fuel control or whatever else. So they have to make sure that that's at least relatively reliable. So even if they get the parts from a different supplier, they have to be qualified, and qualifying shit takes fucking time. Anyways, the fallout is expected to extend beyond Europe, with U.S. automakers also exposed through smaller parts and electronics makers that rely on Nexperia chips. Again, the whole supply chain. People said the industry was blindsided by the Dutch government's move to take control of Nexperia after pressure from Washington, two of the people said. Volkswagen AG has set up a task force to assess potential exposure in its supply chain. Robert Bosch, I don't know, whatever. The world's largest automaker said its expert teams are in close contact with Nexperia as well as other suppliers and affected customers to avoid or minimize any production restrictions. Quote, like other Nexperia customers, we are facing major challenges due to the current situation, a Bosch spokesperson said October 20th. Quote, we therefore hope for a swift resolution among the parties involved that will help ease the current supply bottleneck. A spokesperson for Mercedes-Benz Group, AG, said the company is monitoring developments with stakeholders, adding that the automaker has secured short-term chip supplies, but that the situation remains volatile and difficult to predict. Quote, we are working intensively with our partners to avoid potential supply gaps, a spokesperson said. So yeah, the current dipshittery between the world and China continues, and I do feel that China is winning. As an American, I'm just looking at this like, really? This is our plan. This is what we're going for here. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this all falls out, especially as companies start to go bankrupt, especially as companies start to actually fail. So one of the things we have right now is we have a rather robust supply chain. And in a rather robust supply chain, you have many companies doing many different things. One of the big questions that's gonna start to come up is with everything going on. And you have to look at this, again, in a holistic, a macro view, right? This isn't simply, you know, Netherlands simply nationalizing Nexperia. That's its own thing, right? You have the trade war. You have the trade war between China and the United States. You have China now, restricting rare earths materials. You have Trump talking about 100% stacking tariffs on China starting November 1st. So we're going to go back up to 145% tariffs on that. We have so many dynamics going on in the world now, and it's very difficult for people to plan in the future. Remember, for businesses, the reality for businesses, they do not need good regulations. They do not need a good tax system. They do need stable, right? If you have a stable system, I can scribble down a plan and I can try to figure out, even in idiocy, how I can try to make a profit, right? The problem is if tariffs go from nothing one day to 50% the next day to 150% the next day, down to like 20%, could be back up to 150%. The problem isn't even actually the tariff rate itself, right? 150% tariff is still fucking stupid. But if it was just there, people could understand and then figure out what they're going to do. The issue is tariffs and all of this stuff is all over the board. So what happens when individual links in the supply chain start to catastrophically fail? And then if you have this chain for the supply chain and you start to have failures, how many failures can the supply chain take before the supply chain fails? Right? You look at a car in the modern world, there is just a tremendous number of components that go into that car from just any number of suppliers and vendors, right? If certain parts are no longer accessible, what happens to that end product car, right? This is bad. This is bad. A lot of people say, Eli, you have TDS. And I'm like, damn right I do. Damn fucking right I do. Right? We are seeing the failures coming down the pike. And yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens, I suppose. I can sit here and scream into a camera, here in Asheville, North Carolina. I can go to Durham, North Carolina, and teach people how to build things on the AI stack. There are things that I can do. Unfortunately, this period of time, I don't know, right? Trump is doing what Trump's doing, but again, you look at the Republicans. The Republicans are fucking welfare queens, right? They are just castrated fucking poodles pissing over themselves, trying to prove the world that they're fucking alpha dogs. It's like, we don't need fucking dogs. I don't need a Congress of dogs. That would be cute. That would be adorable. I would love a picture of the Congress filled with dogs. But for the actual Congress, can we get some fucking human beings in there, right? And so that's the thing. Like here in the United States, Trump is doing what Trump is doing. The Republican Party, for some reason, has just shrugged off everything that I thought they believed, right? Whether or not it really is, right? The idea is the Democrats are for blue collar and the Republicans are for corporate business and globalization and all that. So the Republicans don't give a damn about massive taxation now. They don't seem to give a damn about businesses. They don't seem to give a damn about globalization. They don't seem to give a damn about anything that they used to care about. Again, the Democrats are still screaming over pronouns. They're still having committees to make sure that everybody uses the appropriate pronoun. Fuck. So I do not know how this does not end in a complete and utter fucking disaster. And when things break, they are hard to rebuild. They are very hard to rebuild. So anyways, I don't know, what do you think about this? What do you think about the continued idiocy? Put your thoughts down below. If you like these videos, give us a thumbs up. If you hate these videos, give us a thumbs down. Call me amazing, call me a dumbass. Just be a real Lutnick and do it down there in the comment section. Do remember my pride and joy is Silicon Dojo, silicondojo.com. We're doing a class on OpenAI's API in, I don't know, 6 or 7 hours. I've got to drive 3.5 hours to get there. Anyways, we are doing that class later today. We're doing more classes in Durham, North Carolina coming up. If you're interested, make sure to go to the website. Also, free to the end user is not actually free. There's a donor box link down below if you want to throw some money in to help support this project. And with that, see y'all later.